All right, folks. Welcome back to the garage, which is the shop. Woodworks by Snyder here. Next project, pantry door. You know, we had this house built for us about 8 years ago. It's got the standard hollow core doors that probably every new house has these days. But as you caught a glimpse in the last episode or last video, we definitely have some unique stuff that we put in the house ourselves, right? The floor and the dining room table. I'll show you some more of the kitchen, very unique setup. Not a setup, but the design and the little projects I've done in there. So what we're doing is making a new pantry door, solid wood pantry door. And so what I'm going to show you here, maybe this very first video I put on YouTube was long, 31 minutes. It's probably a little too long. The next one was a little bit shorter, 26 minutes. I want to try to keep these from in that 15-minute range. I think will probably be good. So maybe what I'll do is break down these videos to be shorter. This first one we'll concentrate on breaking down the lumber. You know, I've never been taught. I never took any formal education or training on doing any of this woodworking. It's just stuff I've learned from my father, which I'm sure he learned from his father. I think the biggest takeaway from my dad is to always be willing to try something. No, I've never built a door, but I'm going to try it and give it a go. I never built benches before. I did that. Never built a dining room table before. I did that. Never put a combination of slate tile with the wood like you saw in the last video, but I did that. So I'm always willing to try something. Maybe the first time it doesn't turn out good and you scrap it and you learn something new, right? And then you move forward. You know, life is full of failure, not to be a Debbie Downer, but it is. It shouldn't be looked as a bad thing. It's a good thing. You learn a way not to do something. Right? You have a failure and you pick yourself up, dust yourself off and go about it a different way to succeed. So if I scrap this pantry door, you know, I'm out, I don't know, $100 in wood, and you give it a go, but you learned a way not to do it and you try it again, a different way to succeed. So anyways, this video, enough of the chit chat and locker room talk. I'll show you how to break down lumber. Now, I'm sure there's probably a million ways that you can do that, and maybe even a better way than what I'm going to do it. But this is just kind of how my brain works and how I do it. So, so this is the pantry door, and so what's going to happen is you've got these two styles, which are the up and down, any kind of cabinet door or entryway door or whatever. These long parts here are the styles, right? Where the doorknob is, that's a latch style. Where the hinges go, that's the hinge style. And then you have these cross members, which are called rails. Top rail, bottom rail. I think typically, because this is where the lock or the latch goes, it's the lock rail. In this case, it's just a simple door. It's very narrow. It's a pantry door. Our pantry is very small, only 18-inch wide door. But this top will probably be frosted glass. We'll make that, or we'll have, I'm not going to make glass. I don't make glass in my workshop. We'll probably buy that, right? Cut the size, whatever, frosted glass up here. And then down here, this panel, I'll probably end up making it out of some of this reclaimed pallet wood. The benches were made out of these pallets, right, that were massive. And they had this wood, this cross-member wood, which is oak. So what we're going to do, we're going to break down, you saw that I talked about this, cherry. This is 6/4, right? So the way that works is 4/4 at a lumber mill equals 1 inch, or thereabout. 6/4 equals 1.5 inches, right? And there's 8/4, 12/4, all that jazz, right? It's just how thick the lumber is. So this is about 1.5 inches. What I need to get down to, though, is 1 3/8, right? So here's kind of my cut list on what I need. These are the styles. This is a top rail. Which one was that? That was a lock rail. And then this is the bottom rail. Is that in? All right. Right? Boom. So that's what I got to kind of get. I got to get that stuff out of this. So how the hell do you do that? The way I do it, this piece right here is, let me get a tape measure, right? 9 3/4. This one's about 10 3/4. Now it's gonna, you're gonna have to take this, knock the sides off, make this square, this and that. But so what I'm gonna do, this piece, I'm gonna get my 2 long styles out of. The 2 80-inch styles. So what I did is I've drawn a line. This is at 85 inches. This is at 85 inches here. It's upside down, I think, for you. All right. And then it gives me plenty of room to get 2 3.5-inch styles out of, right? There'll be plenty of wiggle room. So what I'll end up doing, I know this is 3.5 mark, but I'll cut these a little wider than that, so I have room to plane down the edges nice and square, right? And then I can run this through the planer to get to the thickness from 1.5 inches down to 1 3/8. And so then for this board, what I'm going to use here, I'm going to break down 8 3/4-inch bottom rail, right? 8 1/4-inch locking rail. It's got to be 18 inches or thereabout. Just that gives me plenty of room, because then what I can do is come in here and do the tongue and grooves when these all fit together. But we'll get to that in the next video or two. And then this one is going to be the top rail. I'll get my 5-inch by 18-inch out of that, right? Anyway, so that's the game plan. We'll break this down and get the rough lumber, or get this to a point where I can start doing, you know, the delicate bits, the delicate work of joining them up and everything. So I think that'll be enough talking, and now let's get cutting. All right, got all the cross cuts done on the old miter saw. Santa was good to me this year, and actually just purchased a brand new 12-inch compound miter saw, sliding compound miter saw. This is a 10-inch compound miter. It's been getting the job done for years. But as you saw with this wide lumber, I have to make a cut, make a cut, flip the board, and make another cut, right? Because it can't cut this entire width here. So I got to cut once as far, maybe about halfway or a little bit more, right? And then flip it and cut the other section. With this new saw coming, I'll be able to cut the whole thing in one whack. So here's what we got. We've got the rough cuts for this. This is going to be our, what is it, ladies and gentlemen? The verticals. Those are the styles. That's right. A+ for you. 2 of these. Right? So I'll use the table saw and rough cut this down to size. I'll give myself enough wiggle room so, you know, so I can measure multiple times and probably cut twice, usually how I work. And then these will be our rails, right? These will be the rails. We'll have 3 of them: top rail, locking rail, or that middle one, right? That latch rail, and then a bottom rail type thing. So I've got enough for that. Very small door, probably good one to start with because it's simple. So next thing I'll do is run these through the table saw. Get actually, what I'm gonna do is plane one side, get it square, run through the table saw. And cut it wider than I need to, give myself some wiggle room. Plane one side, table saw. Do the same thing with these, right? And then I'll plane the other side down till I get to the actual width that I do need. At that point, we'll pretty much have the door complete, and then we can start doing essentially like a tongue and groove. I'll whip out the dado stacked for the table saw. Essentially, if you don't know what that is, just multiple blades stacked together so I can do a tongue and groove for the door. That's essentially how it's going to fit. So, see if we can get this in. Tongue and groove. I mean, essentially, you've got the board, right? Actually, you know what? It'll be easier if I draw it. I like to draw things. I'm a visual guy. Tongue and groove right here. Right? And then the other one. Right? This fit in. You've got all this. It's a very strong bond. Can you see that? Strong bond. This is the groove side. And this is the tongue side. How do you spell tongue? Is that a Q or a G? Tonga. Tonga. And you got all this gluing surface. Makes a very strong bond. So you'll see that coming up. But in the meantime, let's get back to cutting. Cutting. All right, I'll cut down. It's the top, rough cut top style. This one is the lock or latch style, right? And then this one is the bottom style. Obviously be spread out, a much bigger door, right? And then over here we've got 2 rough cut, sorry, what did I say, styles? These are all the rails. Top rail, latch rail, bottom rail. See, I would have failed that test. And then these are the styles. Rough cut, I'll get these plane the sides down to get to 3.5. But what we're gonna do now is run these bad boys through the planer. All right, let's wrap it up. Yeah, a little dusty. I have my mask on. It's all right. Here's what we got. Here's what we have. I can't speak. Obviously, just laid out very roughly, but all these are now to the final dimension. Width, I should say width and thickness. Right? That's 1 3/8, 3.5, 3.5, 1 3/8. These styles, right? The rails, you get the bottom rail. Again, thickness and width in this case. I have to cut the length, right? This needs to get narrow. It's got to get to 18 inches essentially. And, right? So, we'll get to those final dimensions when we get to cutting in the groove and then the tongue in these, right? I gotta figure out how deep I'm gonna go and how deep I'm gonna make the tongue, right? So this matches up. Same thing over here. You get the middle rail or the latch. These marks here. Anybody a Seinfeld fan? You get flat spots in the rollers, right? You gotta kick it. I think I got some flat spots in my rollers on the planer, so it hangs up, and basically what happens is it makes this mark. That'll come out in the final sanding and the scraping, whatever I do. And then the top rail. So you got some, you got to see from the rough lumber all the way to pretty much final dimensions. I got to cut obviously the height and width of it and everything like that, and get to the final thing and do the cutting in the tongue and groove. But I'll try to split this up. This video, we'll do that in the next video. And then probably then the final video will be, or maybe that'll be a two-parter or something. The final video will be putting in the glass, the frosted glass. So frosted glass will go in this top panel. And then the wood, which actually this is probably more like, it's a smaller panel on the bottom. That'll be this wood, the reclaimed wood probably, I'm thinking. And then we'll do the frosted glass up there. And then, I don't know, maybe we'll do a final one cutting in the hinges. And obviously I got to put in, cut the hole for the latch, the door knob. So, we'll break this up in parts, but I'm off to take a shower because you can see all the dust in the hair. And hopefully you're off to actually watch this and subscribe, but like the video also. Thanks for joining me. Tune in next time.